Picture this. What if we are all animated talking animals like a perky rabbit, a sly fox, and a shady viper, or a plucky beaver struggling to make it in the big city? That is premise of Zootopia 2, the sequel to the 2016 hit of the same name, which grossed over $1 billion worldwide.
Green team. Sorry, Paul.
The sequel may well be on its way to topping that record after doing quite well among Chinese audiences. Barely 4 days into its China opening on November 29th, Zootopia 2 had a phenomenal one-day gross of more than 738 million yuan. That's a record single-day haul for a foreign film in China for quite some time. So far, the animated flick has raked in over 2 billion yuan in 9 days, and that number is still rising. And that is the power of the Chinese film market. Let's turn to today's panelists to unpack this story. I'm glad to be joined by Dede Nickerson, producer and advisor with DLN Media, and also Max Young, film producer. Nice to see both of you. It is such a box office hit in China. Dede, how much do you think in the overall strategy of Zootopia 2 to mark China as one of the most important markets?
The marketing on this film, I would say, is extraordinary. The film is everywhere, so it's that you haven't seen that kind of marketing push on a domestic or a foreign film in a long time, and it shows you that it makes how impactful and how important marketing is. So they've done a great job with that. And so you have an existing experience, a great film that already has an audience from Zootopia 1. Yeah. And you know, we're seeing this trend in China also where family movies are performing very well when they are well done and well marketing.
Dede, on the other hand, I see tremendous amount of efforts into, as you said, the marketing. When I was visiting LA the other day, and apparently the top team of the Disney have all been visiting China. So Dede, tell me more about how do you think amid all the changes of the world that American film industry, especially Hollywood, are looking at China's market, and how much do you think this can be a good example for the other ones?
I think that in addition to the marketing of Zootopia, Disney executives were here to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Disneyland Shanghai, which was a big milestone. In terms of American content in China, I mean, I think that we're starting a new phase. I think there was the early, you know, release of American theatrical films in the 90s and early 2000s, where the market really wasn't developed here. And then there was the development of Chinese cinemas, and the market started growing. Both Chinese films and American films were doing excellent business. 2006 to 2016, it was kind of the golden era because the Chinese industry was developing, but it hadn't quite caught up yet. And so oftentimes when I was at Sony China, for example, when we were making estimates on the performance numbers of our US films, China would account for as much as half of the box office. That was standard on the big films like Spider-Man. For Disney, the Marvel titles were enormous. Captain America was, in 2019, was the highest grossing live action film, foreign live action film. So there was a very, very significant presence of American films in the Chinese market, and they were very, you know, China was very much contributed to the overall performance of films. Now, since, you know, sort of 2017, 2018, those numbers started to decline, and Chinese content, local content started to really, I mean, it was really starting to take off around 2012, 2013. That's when you were seeing really big numbers consistently on Chinese content. So that's kind of normal. Maybe became audiences got tired of them, and they weren't as enthusiastic about them, and that corresponded with two other significant uh, sort of industry trends. One was streaming, so people were watching a lot more content at home, and also the development of local content, and that's
Right.
true for China, Korea, Japan, now in Southeast Asia. You know, anime is a big, you know, is an explosive segment, you know, in the industry.
Right.
So Zootopia represents is a very well developed product that it's an IP. It's fresh in its take as well. There's been some time since Zootopia 1, and so I think the audience has spoken.
Right. This time in the Chinese market already surpassing the North American market. And you think about Naja, which has become the largest box office holder in the movie history of cartoons just a few months ago. So how much does cartoon movies appeal to the Chinese audience, especially at this moment? And also, how do you see the competition and cooperation between China, US, for example, when it comes to cartoon movies?
I would say animation is becoming a dominant segment of the theatrical experience in the world at large, and certainly in 2025, both Naja and Zootopia proved that out. There was also some great films this summer. Nobody did great business in
Yeah.
China, very different from Naja and Zootopia. Xiaohei, too, did excellent business as well. Also, very different, a different style of animation. So, even within the animation segment, there are different styles of animation. The audience is speaking. I'm putting together now a Chinese animated feature that we're in discussions with a U.S. partner right now, so it will be a co-production. We've designed it before the world. You know, the talent, what it comes down to too, the animation talent in China, in the United States, and in other countries is really matured.
The movie industry has been transformed. There are so many different ways, as you said earlier, through streaming and many other things, through mobile phones. People are watching very different content. How much movie still matter? And when we are asking that question, what does that mean for filmmakers, particularly animation filmmakers?
Well, I think that the numbers speak for themselves, especially in 2025. There is still very strong audience demand. And I just think it's really important for producers, for studios, for talent to pay even more attention to what audiences are looking for. And now we have a lot of data between the streaming and the social media. We have a lot more information than we've ever had about audience. A big piece of audience awareness and where producers are, what they're working from is IP. If you have underlying IP that already has a fan base, your chances for success out of the gate are much higher. So taking IP where there's already a fan base, you're much less likely to miss, you know, because again, the fans are going to go.
Right. You know that there has been some difficult times over the past few years between China and the United States.
Of course.
And, you know, people look at movies as soft power. On the other hand, maybe the content and the story being told in one place might not necessarily appealing so well to the audience in the other place as a result of the changes in the world. So what does that mean for filmmakers all over the world? What kind of challenge does it mean? What kind of opportunities as well when you look at the Zootopia 2 in the Chinese market?
I think I look at content in three ways when you're producing content. You look at it local for local, local for regional, or local for global. And Zootopia is an American film for a global audience. And I think when you're developing story and selecting material, you have to look at that. you have to look at, you have to know what you're making for what audience, and that also affects the economics of it. Because if I'm just making a movie for China, and I think whether it's a bigger movie or a more niche movie, when I'm developing it and working on a budget, um, I have to take those things into consideration, because Zootopia is an example of a great franchise. That doesn't mean there isn't space for smaller independent movies. For example, One Battle After Another, which
Yeah.
was released in China. Great film. Brilliant film. A very different kind of film from Zootopia, but it's more geared to a American audience. And so while it did perform, it didn't do numbers. While there's still an audience for it, it's a much smaller audience. So it's really looking at what you're making and knowing who you're making it for.
How much will Chinese content matter in the U.S. market, and what kinds of efforts already being made at this time while we are amid all these changes between China and the United States in the movie industry to make that happen, Dede?
As far as Chinese content traveling regionally in the west of the world, I think that this kind of success, and the success of some of the local films, including the animated films that we've discussed, and live action features, I think that there was a period of quiet, in terms of co-production activity over the past several years, and there are a variety of factors for that. I think we're going to see that come back. Some of the streamers are going to be looking more closely at how to partner with China, and that's going to make a big difference, because you also have to, it's about building audience as well.
Indeed.
I think there are animated streaming services like Crunchyroll, which have been carrying Chinese content, and it's having good success. Director Lee Howling's To Be Hero X was #3 on Crunchyroll this summer. So I think that the China wave is getting again in terms of outbound content. And going back, we had some great success in the early 2000s. Today, Zhang Yimou's Hero is still the second highest grossing foreign language film in history. So there were the Kung Fu Hustles, there were the Jackie Chan movies. There was a golden moment for Chinese cinema, and I think we're about to see that happen again.
All
The
right.
next wave, if you.
Wow.
I'm very optimistic between streamers and between studios. I'm actually quite optimistic that we're about to embark on that second wave.